It's here. It's big. And it's closer than you think. It's not a tournament. It's what you don't see on TV. The cash is real. The stakes are high. They bet big. They win big. They lose big. High stakes live action poker. Live at the bike. Watch it live on the web or play it if you dare at the Bicycle Casino right here in Los Angeles.
And the lovely seat 8 is Lizette, our own Lizette, starting with about 500. Very, very pretty.
Yeah.
Very jovial.
Over under how long she lasts tonight.
Well, hopefully it will be a long time.
He dresses nice.
Oh, all the time.
He's always looking
all the
sharp.
time. And Lizette here is going to raise it up to 20 with a suited ace. And she's open raised, and I like that as opposed to open limping that late.
The only issue is, though, is like if the flop comes out, king 9-3, is she going to put a continuation bet up there?
Well, if she's listened to our stuff, she should. Carl in there with pocket sixes.
Well, king 3, I mean, that's just as good. I'm always betting this with ace-7.
Yeah, I don't think that Carl's necessarily going to fold here to one bet.
Hey, he shouldn't fold to one bet.
Bet 25.
And she bets half pot here, and he's going to raise her. And that's a play that you will see kind of
60.
at this level that usually you won't see at higher levels.
And these are adjustments that, players like you and I will have to make, and other players that play a little bigger will have to make when you go down to a game like this. And one of the things is, he's raising here, and this isn't something we advocate, but he's raising here for information.
Yeah, kind of.
He's raising here to kind of define.
Carl opens here to 25. And Lee is called with 8-9 offsuit. And I don't think that Carl is really deep enough for you to make that call in position. Lizette also calling with 3 deuce offsuit in the
Three
line.
players.
Yeah, and I like connectors, and this is not a suited connector, but 3 deuce is a little bit too small for her to have really any value. And now she's got the best hand, but almost impossible for her to know that. And if anybody else puts a continuation bet out there, they should be able to take it down. And there's the continuation bet.
Bet, sorry, excuse me.
And this is the problem. I mean, you're out of position with a hand. You have the best hand, but you have no idea where you're at.
Lee is bet here with a gut shot.
4-5 is kind of the cutoff for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you can really call from out of position there anyways with a suited connector. And is Lizette going to check raise here with a 3?
30.
Oh, 30.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like she's got a...
No, she's just going to call this. No?
I think she's trying to figure out what she's doing. Wow, that's like a string raise. That is unbelievable. That's like the definition of a string raise.
Yeah.
That's why the rule is there.
Yeah, I hate to do that. I mean, in all fairness, I think she was as confused as anybody else was.
Lee is called here with 8-9 with a gutter. Maybe he's going to rep spades, or he just thinks she's weak.
Yeah, I think all that kind of dancing around kind of gave him a little bit of a live tell, and he was like, this girl doesn't have anything. And is she going to keep firing here? And the funny thing is, she has the best hand, but apparently I guess she's turning her hand into a bluff. I guess she's trying to get him off a jack, maybe?
I don't know what she's thinking.
Because, I mean, that's the thing.
150.
What does she think what does she think that Lee called her with? And she's now committed herself.
Well, she probably thinks that he has a spade draw, I would guess. Well, she takes it down with the best of it.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
That was weird.
Anytime a new game comes out, you're going to have players that pick it up faster than others. And I think part of, I remember when I was a kid, when I was growing up, I mean, you played Dealer's Choice. And guys almost invented new games. It was like every single night you'd play 15, 20 games.
To 35.
So the best players always adapted to the new games quicker. And I think the same thing happens. When you look at Sean Deeb, I'm sure he's been able to adapt to these new games.
ASU Scott opening to 35 with queen 9 of clubs, and Lizette's got a pretty little hand here with 8-9 of hearts. She's going to make the call.
I mean, I walked in on them at the Aria down in Las Vegas, and I remember Sean Deeb and Scott Seaver playing Heads Up 1919.
Yeah, right. Chinese poker game.
I like it. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a variation of Chinese poker.
Josh is going to call here with ace-jack offsuit here on the button. The beautiful thing about
is Chinese poker legal? It's amazing. Out of all the games not to be legal,
right?
You know what I mean? If there's any game that shouldn't be legal, it would be Chinese poker.
Yeah, you can play that in the smoking area, right?
Yeah.
But the other beautiful thing about this game now, Dave, is you can make some of these calls that you couldn't with a 500 cap. You cannot call a $35 raise with 8-9 suited when effective stacks are 500.
It's so frustrating because it's also a matter of most people don't actually have 500 because a lot of guys buy in for 5 and then suddenly they have 380 and they raise. You've got 8-9 of hearts. She's got to fold.
Good luck, everybody.
4 players.
Yeah, this, Z makes this call with ace-8, and this might come from kind of playing a lot of limit, Dave, because ace-8 offsuit is very difficult to play in no limit from out of position, whereas you might complete that in the big blind to 1 raise and limit.
Well, especially when you get 3 callers and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm getting the odds. Why not?
ASU Scott here is totally flopped air, and I would say you should not c-bet this board, but
80.
he's going to c-bet it, and it probably, well, Lizette's open-ended, actually. Lizette is open-ended here with 8-9. And I love this spot if you're Lizette because you can call and rep a diamond.
Yeah.
Call and rep a diamond.
No real need to raise here because you're not going to get somebody to fold 10s, jacks, queens, kings. You're not going to get somebody to fold a better hand. And if your opponent's actually missed, he'll probably check to you. You can take it away in the turn anyway. You can do this float. You can also represent the diamond, like you said.
Your draw isn't really all that good either. Like if a guy jams
Call
it in,
80.
you're going to be getting it in with 30% equity.
Well, that's the thing because your overcards aren't really. I mean, if you have, if you've got ace jack of diamonds here, your overcards actually might be good. But when you have 8-9, your overcards are pretty much garbage.
Well, she is
2
called
players.
here. So 80 and a call, and this pot is ballooned up to $300. Oh, rep the diamond, Lizette. Well, both players have a 9, but I would turn my hand into a bluff here. Now, she's probably not thinking that. She's probably just going to bet because she's got top pair. She's also open-ended.
And ASU Scott, the fact that he's hit his 9 is really.
Ooh, yeah, and she
he just immediately folds.
And it worked out for her.
Yeah, it did. I like the way she played the hand.
But the question is, if you asked her, why did you bet, would she say, because I had the best hand, or I was going to represent the flush?
In the 5-10 game is a worse lineup. I might play 5-5.
Well, because now you can.
Before I had no option.
Well, because now you can buy in for 1,000. It's great.
I win 2 hands. I got 1,400 in front of me. I can actually play poker.
Look at this ASU Scott here with pocket queens, and Lizette making a very. Oh, she's got ace-3 suited. I thought she had opened with ace-3 offsuit. She makes it 20.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this. I mean, if you're going to play the hand from up front, I'd rather play it for a raise than not play it at all. That said, I mean, I'm probably just folding it from up front.
It really, and he's going to min-raise. He's going to make it 80. Well, not min-raise, but I guess it's a 4x. She's just going to fold. I actually think, though, Dave, in loose passive games, these are the types of hands that, you have to deal with incomplete information until you're actually shown something different at the table.
I mean, it would almost pay off then. Knowing that, it would almost pay off that if you were a young kid, if you looked like a young punk, to actually play it a lot tighter because you probably won't get credit. And if you're actually an older man, it would actually probably pay off to bluff a little more often than your opponents probably think you are capable of doing.
Lizette here has raised it up to 30. She's playing pretty laggy, and Z's going to call here with King Jack.
2 players. I know better.
Both players miss. Let's see if Lizette can put in the C-bet, and she does.
She doesn't even have to. Z just open folds. And Z will routinely play like the 40-80 limit, 30-60 limit hold'em. He has a good time doing it, and I don't know if he's going to play no limit much more. Figure it all out. I don't think he's still a good month away though.
Month and a half, yeah. They have 1 re-entry tournament there, which is interesting because I'm going to ask the Allens in the room here. I just would have thought that they could have done a $1,000 re-entry tournament with 5 day ones and literally gotten 15,000 entrants. Instead, they did a re-entry tournament with 1 extra day for 1,500 the first weekend, which is fine.
Will get probably, what do you think, 4,000 entrants?
Well, they have more of a
20,
capacity
right?
this year.
20.
They can actually seat 4,000 a day. They cut one of the main event day ones out because they can seat more people. So it might sell out. It might have 8,000 entries in it.
Well, that was always been the issue for a lot of people, I think, with the main event. It's gotten so long now that people are like...
2 players.
But even for people that, even if you don't even make the money, you're talking about taking 7-8 days off. It's really difficult for a lot of people that have families, have jobs, and so forth. And those are the kind of people that do play in the main event. There was an old adage of, if you make it to day 6 or day 7, who cares? Of course, but this is like with 4 day 1s, a day off, 2 day 2s, a day off, and then a day 3. You're there for 7 or 8 days and you haven't made the money yet.
This is really interesting here because Lizette was the pre-flop raiser. She c-bet 40% of pot, and Lee has min-raised her with 5s. And what is she going to do? Is she going to min-raise back?
60.
Like a limit game. Check 20, 40, 60.
See, this is the only thing that I always find really, really difficult. If I was in Lee's spot, I'd have no idea where Lizette was at.
I know.
You know what I mean? I'd have no clue.
Well, normally sometimes I think maybe what was going through Lee's mind was I can just check raise here, protect against overcards, and she'll just fold if she doesn't have anything. But he's going to call. He does
160.
not. And he 3-bets her. Wow.
Wait, so he check raised. She raised it, re-raised it, but now he has re-raised one more time.
It went check 20, 40, 60, 160.
Yeah, he's like, okay, whatever. This $20 bullshit, pardon my French, I don't buy it. But you know what I mean, though? I mean, if you're sitting at the table, would you have any idea where she's at?
Not sure what she's thinking about here either. I guess she's just posturing.
I mean, I guess if she moved all in here, she'd win the pot.
But the funny thing is, if I'm Lee, if I'm Lee and I think that Lizette has a hand like ace-jack here, I'm not making this 3-bet. There's no way. I mean, it happened to be that she had nothing, but I just don't see her folding an ace in the spot.
I think Lee just kind of... I think when Lee made it, when Lee made it 40 and she only made it... I think if she makes it to like 100,
Thank you.
I think Lee folds. But I think when she makes it 20 more, Lee just didn't believe her.
Button moves here to seat number 1. That is Carl.
Small blind hand? Shooter, you're first.
It's not all about
Again, you can watch this show and every show that we do on the archives, Dave, if you're not here on Tuesday and Friday.
How does that work?
Well, if you sign up, $9.95 a month gets you access to all of the old shows, including the shows that we did from like 6 or 7 years ago as well.
What if I want to pay more money, though? Can I get more for that?
Well, Lee has flopped an interesting hand. That question in a second. Double gut shot here for Lee. Queen 10 of clubs, Lizette with king 10. These two are going to go at it again. She bets half pot. He's just going to call.
He doesn't want to get raised off his draw this time.
It'll be interesting to see how he plays it. He's going to do a check call lead here. She's going to double barrel.
I think Lizette thinks everybody's always making a move on her.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? I think she's like, you know, a lot of beginning players, they always think, like, because of TV, they think everybody's making a move on me. They never have anything. They're always making moves
60.
on me.
Well, she bet 60 here. I got to tell you, I still call here and bet for value. I mean, the draw is hidden. Like, if she has a hand like
totally.
ace-king, 9, I don't know if I would necessarily rep spades. But
I just don't think I don't know if you're going to get an ace to fold.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely at least calling this.
And if it goes brick, and it goes check, king high is going to win here. King high is going to win. And I think that Lee is definitely confused about what's been going on here with Lizette.
Well, I mean, I'm confused.
You can see
I'm watching the cards and I'm confused. It's like,
Two players.
You watch the way she plays. I mean, the 3 deuce earlier on, the 6-5. There's the spade. Let's see if he does try to represent this. I mean, this is something that you will do against players that are noticing. You will represent the spades when you have the gut shot.
And he just checks.
In this case, double gutter.
He just checks.
And now Lizette's trying to think, okay, can I get him to fold? Well, I mean, that's at least what I would be thinking. I know I'm not going to get an ace to fold. Can I represent spades here and get him to fold a jack, maybe?
Well, the pot's 205. Is she going to triple barrel here?
And just for the record, guys, when you go to play live, you better know what you're doing. You can't take your chips out there, put them out there, bring them back, do that stud dance thing. I'm just letting you guys know.
She's kind of towing the line a little bit.
Not a little bit, dude. She's completely crossed the line. I mean, she grabbed 100, she brought it out there, then she brought it back. I mean, it's like a little bit of a dance. I'm just giving people, if you're an online player and you're coming to a casino for the first time, that's kind of stuff that they're not going to tolerate. So you can take 5 minutes. Take your time.
Oh, man, she's did it again. Oh, man, she put 150 out. She hasn't made the bet yet. Oh. And I think he folded, but did she? Oh, she checked it back. She checked it back. I mean, that was amazing at the end there. That after you just said
she
that,
put 100 out there and said check?
She put 150 out there.
And said check.
And then just said check. Yeah. Did you see that?
Thank you.
It amazes me that nobody's calling her on it.
I know.
And Lewis on the floor with the camera.
Raise 20.
Wow, queens are going around here. Now Carlos got queens. Lizette opening to 20.
Yeah, Carl's a very tight player, though. He gets respect from the rest of the table, especially players that at least know who he is.
Raise 60.
And a 3-bet to 60. 20 to 60.
I did something. Well, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I've never asked for a setup in this table.
And Josh flat called the 3-bet with King Jack off, and that's just a hand that you definitely don't want to be in there for a 3-bet and no limit hold'em.
No, yeah, I mean, it's just not a hand that plays well. I mean, you know, if I'm in position against somebody in a 3-bet, I mean, I really want to have a small pocket pair or maybe a small suited connector.
3 players.
King Jack is just so easily dominated.
Lizette overcalls. Well, there's the ace. And Lizette can never really play this hand strong, although she's going to come out and bet.
And not just mess around. I
Wow.
mean, she's going to come out and bet like, well, you never know, actually. Is it actual
130?
bet yet?
She bet out
130.
130.
Yep, 130.
This is actually the problem with playing an ace this way. I mean, there's some merit sometimes when you say, oh, I've got top pair, I'm going to play a little stop and go to protect against overcards. Here, you're either ahead or you're behind. There isn't a whole lot of reason to come out and bet and get the two guys to
Yeah,
fold.
there's a great podcast that you did a while ago, and because I was familiar with one, you should be able to run that more than once as well. So to me, rather than making the running more than once thing a player-dependent, a game-dependent thing, I think it should be a pot size-dependent thing.
I like the idea. I can see Alan kind of shaking his head. I just wonder how it would be enforced. Does that mean that the dealers have to keep track of pot size? I think that's the
It's pretty
issue.
simple. I mean, you make the pot, like if the pot's 3,000, you can do it. If your pot's 2,000, you can do it. Otherwise, no. It's not that hard when the pot's, you know, I mean, I'm talking about like, you know, no, I just don't want to see running it when the pot's $700.
Lizette has flop trips and she bet right out. Shooter called with
players.
pocket threes here. Turn is an ace.
Yeah, you know what? And always, you know, we see this thing where players just
15.
don't give. You know,
Wow, and look at this. She has
Raise,
induced
40.
him to bluff raise by leading out.
Players just do not give you credit.
2 players.
And she is called. River here is a 7.
Yeah, and
She's
she
going to
could
bet out
probably like
again.
a little blockish
50.
bet.
200.
Wow, and he's going to bluff raise again. Oh, man, it went bet raise on the turn. And a lot of times you would say this is like a bet fold. How can I possibly be good with 5-6 here?
I would say it's a bet fold if you don't bet 50 into, you know, 150. I mean, if you make a normal size bet and you don't induce this bluff, but she put this small little blockish bet out there and induced this. And now she put herself in a bad spot and she's going to call. People just don't fold trips in this game especially.
Call.
No. But it just goes to show you that's kind of a play, Dave, we used to advocate way back when we first started doing the show 6-7 years ago. You and I really weren't great no-limit players,
No.
but people learned a lot and made a lot of money from the show because basically our number one strategy tip was just always fast play everything because at that time people slow played so much that by fast playing, you are actually being more deceptive than by trapping.
Huh? Table 20?
Don't you change these dealers out once in a while? You ask me, I change all of them.
Lizette is
20.
raised again. She really likes to raise.
Well, she's in late position. I mean, she's in the cutoff seat right here, and you can see cut next to her name. She's in the cutoff seat with ace-8, and she opens it. I don't mind that at all. I mean, I think that's a good play. I mean, I think she's going to buy
Raise,
herself the button
65.
off the knot. Steve, though, has noticed the same thing you've noticed, though. Steve goes, you know what, she's been raising a lot. Steve 3-bets her on the button. And we actually haven't seen much from Steve at all.
65.
And if you're Lizette, I think I'm folding this 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Steve's played, 3 hands the entire day? Give him some credit. Even though we can see that Steve's making a move here, she's got to know that she's behind his range. Plus, you're out of position.
They're right here on the right side. On the right side against the new.
In fairness, you know what? It's funny. I was saying that everybody else, Lizette always thinks people are making moves against her. Tonight, everybody is making moves.
I know, right?
I mean, Shooter made a move on her. Lee's making moves on her. Now Steve's making moves on her.
What?
So if you were in Lizette's spot
over
there with
here.
the trip 5s, I mean, trip 6s, you might fold that, right? I mean, I don't think you're ever leading out for a blockish small bet, though.
Yeah, and I actually might have played it the same way, too. I think you're right. I think I would have made it a real bet on the river. Like, I would have called, and then they have a 2-3, 100 to 300. They have 1-3, 80 to 120, and then 1-2, 40. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Call, sorry.
So Lizette decides not to raise this one. She just limps in.
Call, sorry.
Steve is raised, though. Carl's going to call with a mystery hand. We do not know what Carl has.
I don't mind that raise there by Steve at all because normally Carl's not going to call. You're going to buy yourself the button, and you probably will get it heads up. But even if Shooter and Lizette call, Steve's probably the best player at this table, or one of the best, and I like his chances with position.
Yeah, I don't mind the raise at all. I mean, I have no problem with raising in position with a gap-suited connector. I actually got an interesting tweet during the week asking me how to play 9-7 suited. And I tweeted back to the guy, I go, specifically 9-7 or any gap-suited connector?
5-way action. I bet you Steve wasn't expecting this. And
Wow.
what a flop.
Oh, wow, this is a monster flop for a couple players here. Shooter with the nut flush draw. Steve open-ended with the flush draw. Little does he know the flush draw is no good. Lizette with top pair.
And if Lizette leads here, because I've seen her lead sometimes with top pair, I am raising here 100%.
Oh.
This is going to be an easy raise. Well, checked. And I'm going to bet big here. I'm going to bet like 130 here, Dave. I'm going to try to discourage nines from calling.
Over there before you even put him down.
Okay.
You know, so put him down here, right here.
Okay.
Well, he bets 100. I mean, I know it's two-third pot size bet, but I would tend to bet a little bit larger than that, though.
I don't hate it, though. I mean, I don't think it's a problem because I think this is the kind of board you can definitely double barrel because there are so many scary cards. If your opponent does call you with a 9, you know, an ace, a king, a queen, a jack come off, any of those cards come off, you can then take it away anyway.
It's really interesting because the way that Shooter made that call, I'm probably going to use this hand for Crush Light Poker, it didn't seem to me, even though we can see the cards, like it was like a 9. I would be a little bit...
It almost looked like a live tap, like
a flush draw, and I would be wary if I was Steve about what that guy had limped in with and called.
Well, hey, you've got to be aware, obviously, if you've got that many callers, there can be a flush over flush possibility. Well, in this case, though, if you're Steve, you don't mind it. You just don't want the flush to come in. You can take it away.
Well, it's one of those things, too. If the flush comes, I think, especially with these stacks, you can just bet fold the turn against a check raise.
I give Lizette credit. I mean, she folds the best hand, but I don't mind this fold at all, especially against Steve, who's played it very tight up till now.
Well, there's the spade, so this is going to be interesting. It is a board pairing card as well. Now Steve's open-ended with a he's open-ended straight flush draw.
Wait, Shooter might be really good at shooting rattlesnakes. I don't know about the acting thing, though. Did you see him? He did the sigh and then shake of the head.
And look at how he is, and now he checks. Let's see if
sigh,
Steve picks
shake
up
of
on
head,
it.
and the check. Yeah, but if you're Steve, you might pick up on it, but what are you going to do? Are you going to check this back? And then check this back and then call any river?
If you thought this guy was really huge, where you thought, oh my god, I think he flopped a set or he's got the nut flush draw, you might check it back and see what the guy does on the river. I'm not saying you're necessarily going to fold.
I mean, you do it. By the way, he has outs. He has
Yeah.
straight flush draw. He has straight flush draw.
Well, he bets 200. The problem here, though, is Shooter's only got 6. If he checks shoves all in here, after this acting job, I'm folding. Again, we can see the cards, but I said it before, Dave, on the flop.
Well, if anybody ever does an acting job like this and then raises you,
especially if he doesn't raise all in, if he makes it like
400,
well, he's all in. Let's see if Steve can fold here.
Yeah.
And it's an easier fold now because he doesn't beat a full house that might have been slow played on the flop. A set.
Well, he's got to realize that in all likelihood, remember, he's got 10-8 of spades. So start thinking, okay, what is my opponent in there with 4-5 of spades? 5-6 of spades?
That's it, right.
There aren't that many combinations. There are a lot more combinations that are higher than your 10. Or there's a full house possibility.
Way more combinations.
Now, you only have, though, because obviously it's ace X, king queen, king jack, king, I mean, probably not king much else than that, but queen jack.
And any full house, which is like three combos of deuces, 3 combos of nines, 1 combo of quad sevens.
And I think the fact that you have 2 outs is kind of, you obviously aren't getting the right price here. It's 425 to win 11. You're getting 3 to 1.
Now, some people would say, Dave, well, you guys are talking about how you might have to call down because people are overplaying their hand, but I think this situation is a little bit different, though.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I'll throw this at you. Does your opponent ever have ace-7 with the ace of spades?
Remember, he limped under the gun and then called the raise.
He called the 100.
Yeah.
He called 100. I mean, okay, does your opponent ever have here?
The only thing he really beat here is 5-6 of spades. And I don't know if he plays it like this. And he also limped under the gun, or 5-5 of spades. Like you said, there's way more combinations. And now the fact that the board is paired, I think, lets him off the hook even more. Because he insta-called the flop.
I mean, it's one of those things where you're probably behind 85 to 90% of the time.
And you're getting 3 to 1.
And you only have 2 outs if you're not behind. If you are behind, you only have 2 outs.
call. You have nothing. That's where I get all my action from. Yeah.
I mean, and Steve is probably one of maybe the only 2 players at the table that might be capable of actually folding this hand. Or at least thinking it through. You know what I mean? And again, it had to do with that snap call without a thought, which I think really puts shooters' range on 2 specific hands, a set or a flush draw on the flop. The limp call pre-flop.
Yeah, I mean, generally that snap call is usually a draw. Usually when somebody flops 2 pair or flops a set, they're going to think about it for a second. They're going to think about what to do. They might do the Lizette chip dance.
I mean, if you're going to bet this turn, I think you have to be able to bet fold it. Or yeah, he says, I think you have the nut flush. I think he said, well, why do I think you have the nut flush?
How high is it?
I think he's going to lay this down and give the guy credit when he does lay it down. Alan, you think he's going to lay it down?
Now, the other thing, too, though, when we talk about the full house combinations...
Trying to make a buck here. Nobody's taking it.
When we talk about the full house combinations, would this guy play 9s full like this or quad 7s like this? I could see him check shoving deuces full, but what about 9s full or quad 7s? Would he ever play it like this? That's, you know, it's...
I generally don't think people are snap calling $100 when they flop a set. I could be wrong.
Okay. 3. No.
Did he? No, he did call. He called.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like...
Well, he's got 2 outs. Nope.
Nah, not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where a lot of these players, they kind of know it, and they still can't make the laydown. And I'm sure you've been there before where it's like, you know what your opponent's got, you know you're beat, and you still can't make that laydown. And it's tough sometimes. We saw it earlier on with Lee when he had I believe he had trip 4s, and he couldn't lay it down. And then we see it here, you know, with Steve. He's got a smaller flush. He's got a kind of a middling flush, and he can't get rid of his hand. And you can see Steve kind of agonizing over it because he knows. He knows he was beat, and he knows he made a bad call here. Take a look at the VPIP. Josh, 46%. Lizette, 41% Lizette's at.
Big blind, boss.
It scares me. You end up with a straight flush.
Lizette's 41-25.
Yeah, let's take a look at the pre-flop race here.
Lizette's
Well, give her.
41-25.
She's playing like a LAGtard.
Completely. 41-25.
At least she's playing 41-25, not like 41-3.
No,
You know?
I give her a lot of credit. When she's playing it hard.
I mean, when we see that guy Amir play on the show,
let's look at Josh's numbers. You have to know how deep your opponent is. So when you bet there, if you're Steve on the turn and you bet there, you have to look at his stack and know, what will I do if this guy shoves on me? You know if you're pot committing yourself. Know what you're doing on that thing. Have an idea.
And here it goes. Lizette opening once again. Now Steve's got 10s. Now he's re-raised her with junk. Let's see if he's going to re-raise her with a medium hand here.
Yeah, 10s are one of those hands where, you know, I will balance my range, and occasionally I will 3-bet with 10s, but I'm probably calling 2 out of 3 times and maybe only 3-betting 1 out of 3.
This is interesting here because shooter's got 9s. And, you know, you got to give Lizette some credit, but I don't know if the 4-bet bluff is in her arsenal because some advanced players would realize, hey, Steve's 3-betting me a lot. One of these times I'm going to re-raise him instead of just call.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen here, though. And if I'm a shooter, I have no problem making this call because if I put Steve on a big hand, I can actually call this for set value.
But then
it's only $60.
The flip side of that, though, is if Steve is doing it with junk, it's going to be tough.
It's called ab-rip.
Some guys would actually 4-bet fold that hand.
Steve's been really active the last 10 minutes, but before that, he hasn't done anything.
And remember, you know, Steve just lost a pot. We always talk about that short-term tilt factor.
Well, ace-8-6, and Lizette made the call as well. Nobody's going to like this flop.
But I'm going to tell you, if I'm Steve here, I'm probably still going to bet and then shut it down to protect a little bit of equity in the pot. With a hand like 10s here, it's really tough to check this back.
And the reason being is you're not betting thinking you're going to get called by worse, although you can get called by a flush draw. And you're probably not going to get better to fold more often than not.
Wow, she's leading out here. And Steve snap folds.
Well, I mean, I think Steve's got to.
Yeah. Remember, if shooter remembers how she played a big hand before when he tried to bluff raise her.
Tough, though, you know, with 9s and 10s, and Lizette just, you know, 6 cents there. She makes that bet. It's universal, yes.
Yes, it is, he says. So, like, everyone, you know, everybody and their mother's getting put into all kinds of these Nooner events and stuff.
10.
Every day, he says.
And then when I switched back to DirecTV, I'm like, okay.
The weird thing was I was actually sitting next to Sammy when he won that.
When he did the run around, the lap.
Oh, he went crazy. He won 11,000. He was going nuts. And hey, give him credit. You know, I mean, if I won $11,000 in a jackpot, I'd be very excited too. It was amazing how many railbirds immediately came over to him. Hey, good job, man. Well done. Well done. I'm happy for you.
I was rooting for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
3 players.
Lucky Chip.
I min-raised, didn't I?
Yeah.
I thought we were playing
9-7 deuce rainbow here. Lizette with top pair. And Lizette's going to bet
I
it.
didn't realize I read.
Bet 20.
You got me out. I was just looking at my blues going, I'm going to use my blues to call the blind.
2 hold for this. Says I used to live in Burbank. I've seen some bad acting in my time. I think he's talking about the sigh and the nod from Shooter before he moved all in.
Turn is an 8 here.
Bet 30.
Did Scott check call the flop, and now he's betting the turn?
Yeah, well, he's picked up a draw, and he's going to bet
Call
it.
30.
And Lizette's going to call.
Why did he check call the flop, though? River's a 5. It's a 1-liner to a 6, and now he just gives up.
Would you ever bet this?
I mean,
Would you ever bet this thinking your opponent actually has 9-10? I mean, it's really thin value, but I'm just wondering, what did he bet on the turn and now check the river on?
well, the weird thing was he was the pre-flop raiser. So is he check calling with 9-10 and then all of a sudden leading the turn? It's very difficult.
It's a really weird play, but I'm just wondering, what is he checking the river with then?
Yeah.
I probably would not have bet that. It either would have just been a weird hand or, you have it.